Hey, welcome to the AMA. I think we're ready to get started. So if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and unmute and ask.
Hi, this is my first experience with trading crypto. Can you explain a little bit about staking?
Great question. Day one, they would get all 167,000 fund token in day one. If another person added equal liquidity in day two, they would split it, and then so forth and so on. So you're always going to get your percentage pro rata of what you're providing in liquidity, your total LP tokens that you have compared to everybody else. And then every day, it happens, at a tighter interval than that. But just assume as time goes on, as those fund tokens are up for grabs, they're going to be distributed pro rata to the people providing liquidity. And that's what we want to reward. And so now, in parallel to that, I know a lot of people ask, okay, well, when can I just, I don't have enough, Ethereum to provide liquidity, or maybe I just don't want to, when can I go ahead and stake? Because I really love I love what fund tokens is doing. I want to hold, I don't want to sell. And I know that, maybe, there's going to be a lot more attention on what we're doing later on down the line. Can I stake? And so that'll be a separate contract. That'll be a separate feature. So when we roll that out, when you go to that, at the top of PhunToken.com, you see rewards and liquidity. You'll be able to click on rewards. And then in that, drop down menu, you'll see getting started, provide liquidity, and then you'll see another one that just says staking. And so that'll be without having to provide any liquidity. Can you earn rewards for staking? Yes. And so that hasn't been rolled out yet, but it's kind of on our roadmap, and we'll work on that contract and release that and let everybody know whenever that's available. So good question.
Thank you for that. That was a really good explanation. Should the price be going up as more people are staking?
So it's not just one variable, but it's a very good question. So that's effectively, there's entire classes on this, and so you think about a lot. If you go back to kind of like public company life, which we also live in, you hear this term called the float. That's basically like the shares that are actively trading, and so if you had 10,000 shares that were actively trading, or in this case 10,000 tokens that were actively trading. People were buying and selling, and it was just kind of the free market gone wild. Then all of a sudden, somebody said, I'll use a bad example because we don't want this to happen to anybody. Someone, forgot where they put their wallet, or they forgot their PIN code for their Trezor, and they couldn't get access. They had 5,000 of those tokens, or they couldn't log into their TD Ameritrade in the public company example, and they couldn't access their 5,000 shares. Those shares are still in the world. They're still part of the supply, but they're no longer circulating because you can't trade them. They're like, they're effectively gone. And so now if you had that same demand for those 10,000 shares, that demand is now allocated to 5,000 shares or 5,000 tokens. So that's where people start to think, well, yeah, if you can reduce the float, or you reduce kind of what's the effective circulating supply, then you should see, if you continue to grow demand in something, that supply is now constrained, there should be upward price pressure. So that's why you see everybody trying to encourage people to lock their tokens, to stake their tokens, and why sometimes you can get really good rewards for doing that. You'll see things where people can stake and unstake, and so it gives them the freedom. Some people will give greater rewards if, let's say, you stake for a higher time interval. So, all right, if you lock your tokens up for 30 days, I'll give you this reward. Now, the trade-off to that is the risk. What if, the price of the token goes through the roof because Elon Musk, mentions it? Well, you're locked up. You can't trade that. So you always got to kind of think about what is your investment thesis. What do you want to get out of whatever you're doing with trading, and then what do you think is going on with the broader ecosystem, broader market, broader branding efforts. And so it's nothing's foolproof, but you'll tend to hopefully get rewarded more heavily if you're willing to stake or lock longer.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Hello, Randall.
Hey,
I
how's it
have the
going?
next. Hi, all good, all good. I hope you're good too.
Absolutely. What time is it? What time is it, Richard?
It's 10 p.m. right now.
All right. I appreciate you tuning in late. I know it's getting late.
Yeah, sure.
Coach,
It's
you don't sleep
important.
much. You're
No,
always up.
never. Yeah, right. I have a little bit different questions for today. What part of the business is currently causing you the most difficulties, and what is Phunware focusing on in the coming weeks and months?
Great question. So, and I'll answer this in the guise of Phunware and PhunToken, so because it's both of them, right? So, for us, we led the mobile revolution. A lot of people don't realize, like, we helped Apple define what the App Store was going to be. We built some of the largest, most recognized mobile applications on the planet. And so now, fast forward 13 years, we're doing the same thing for what's called digital transformation. So everybody loves to talk about the metaverse. I think it's bullshit. I think it's gonna be like flying cars. Like, it sounds really cool, but Second Life had that idea a long time ago. I think there's an issue with form factor, there's an issue with technology, there's an issue with kind of just reality. And then, what really, kind of bums me out about it is I don't want to, disappear. I want to tech enable the real world. And so, what we do in tech enabling the real world is called digital transformation. And that's a massive thing that is happening right now. So, we just launched our software at Atlantis in the Bahamas. It's one of the largest luxury resorts in the world, 140 acres. It's an entire island, 5 different distinct properties. They needed a mobile solution to help make sense of all of that. All of the rides, all of the restaurants, the casino, the hotel rooms, all of the charters and experiences that you can have. And guess what? We live in a mobile first world that's quickly becoming mobile only. So we wanted to turn the mobile phone into a mobile concierge. And so we do that through an application. Well, that's a brand new idea right now. So we had this platform ready to go to be able to deploy this kind of thing, to deploy this kind of capability. And then COVID happened. So now, you don't have people traveling, you don't have people staying in hotel rooms, you don't have people going into the office. And so all of these opportunities to tech enable the real world got delayed. So that kind of, that's been what's keeping me up at night is, when are we going to get back to normal life? Like, when are we going to get back to experiencing the real world? And finally, thankfully, we're seeing that. So really excited about this year. We just did a multi-million-dollar deployment for a smart workplace. So tech enabling the office of the future. We just launched at Atlantis in the Bahamas. We work with Wynn in Vegas and in Boston. We've done stadiums, we've done residential buildings, malls, airports, you name it. This concept of, I want to use my mobile device to explore the world around me, is just beginning to take hold for a lot of big brands. And they're just beginning to understand how powerful that can be to engage consumers. And this is why PhunToken is so important. So, our 13 years of experience was focused on building mobile software to contextually engage another human being, to understand who you are, what's important to you, and what's around you, and how to delight you in the real world. And so, as we were doing this, we realized, wait a minute, there's all these opportunities to engage someone, but that engagement is so powerful to a brand. Shouldn't we be incentivizing that engagement? And so a lot of this, and if you look at, I think it's on the PhunToken website now, but it's if you Google, my name, Randall Crowder, Medium, and decentralization is the hero we deserve. You'll see an article that I wrote about this, but Kathy Mayer sits on our board. She used to be the CMO and CDO of Carnival Cruise Lines. Before that, she was, senior level at Las Vegas Sands, and then also Caesars Entertainment. And so, she has forgotten more about gaming, hospitality, and engagement in a digital world than most of us will ever learn. She now sits on the board of Phunware, and we started my relationship with her back in 2017, I think it was, thinking about what this would mean for a cruise line. And so we asked them, okay, what do you wish your customers would do more of in order to drive profitable behavior? And she said, I want them to buy more excursions every time a ship leaves port. Ship leaves port, sunk cost. I need them to buy more excursions because we'll make more money. Okay, that makes sense. How do you sell them excursions? So, well, we put up signs, and occasionally, we'll walk around and, sell one-to-one if we have enough staff. Okay, well, that's archaic. So with our existing software, we would introduce infomercial-like capability at the point of sale. So we would know that you're standing in line waiting to board the ship, or we would know you're in the bar, or we would know you're in your room just waiting to just leave port. And we could send you a push notification to your phone that says, for all the amazing excursions that you'll have available to you on your trip, click this button to watch now. And so we're just trying to introduce a commercial so that you'll basically hopefully buy something. And she said, well, hey, that's interesting. And yes, I hope people watch the commercial and I hope people buy. But if I know my conversion metrics, I might be willing to pay people to watch that video. So literally just, hey, in that same exact workflow, push notification, do you want to check out all the amazing excursions? But at the end of it, it's, and I'll pay you, 100 Carnival coin. And this is an important point that a lot of people don't understand about PhunToken and why we're building things the way we're building it. We don't necessarily have to have everything be PhunToken to grow the PhunToken ecosystem. We can actually introduce PhunToken into third-party applications and let them white label it. So in the Carnival example, it could be called Carnival Coin. It could be called Cruise Coin if it was a different cruise line. Doesn't matter. Because all we're doing is we're putting our software development kit inside of their third-party mobile application. We're mapping and tracking behavior. And for different profitable behavior, we'll reward you with PhunToken, branded as whatever you want to brand it as. So you're accumulating these rewards basically in layer 2 inside of any application on the planet. And then when you want to cash out, there's just a button that says, go to PhunWallet to cash out. So you'd go to PhunWallet and then you'd see a card. You earned, 1,000 cruise coin, during your trip. That's still layer 2 because we're managing all of that. And you can click a button, you'll be able to convert that to PhunToken, go on chain, and then send it wherever you want, once that feature is enabled. And so this is how we begin to leverage all of our brand relationships, but also leverage their customers. So we're not always having to just market our stuff. We now get to piggyback and draft off of their audiences, their engagement, their loyalty platforms. And this is important because I think, this is something that I love, what everybody's doing over at Basic Attention Token. But I do have a problem with changing customer behavior. You're basically saying, stop using Chrome, stop using Safari, start using, our Brave browser, and we'll reward you for, watching, advertisements. I know a lot of people who are never going to stop using Chrome and Safari. And so, I think what we want to be able to do with our mobile experience is not change behavior. We want people to do what they would already do with the mobile apps they already know and love, and they can actually get rewarded inside of those unique ecosystems. And then come to that, then when they want to cash out effectively, that drives them to PhunWallet. Then as they get driven to PhunWallet, that drives more people into our ecosystem and then more use and utility of PhunToken. So we think that, by going the software development kit, the API route, by integrating into existing brands, we'll be able to scale, not only faster, but more responsibly with people who maybe don't even know nearly as much about, crypto as the folks on this AMA. And that's what we want. We're building this not necessarily for, the crypto junkie. We're building this for somebody who's never even touched crypto. And what's cool with a lot of the brands that we're talking to, they don't want to add just another feature to their existing rewards program that they have to carry as a liability on their books. And that's a very important thing for anybody that hasn't ever, a lot of people in crypto have never actually worked with real brands. Brands, if they give a reward, they have to carry it as a liability on their books. And if you're a Fortune 500 company, you hate that. Their CFOs hate that. They literally will sell reward points for 10 cents on the dollar just to get them off their books. And so with blockchain, it's a really interesting technology where because you're transferring custody, you don't have to carry it as a liability on your books anymore. So we're incentivizing people to engage, to drive profitable behavior, and we don't have to carry it as a liability. That's a huge idea, and that's the reason why blockchain. There's so many projects out there that do not need to leverage blockchain. They shouldn't be on blockchain. They're just trying to chase a fad, and it's silly. For us, we have a very real use case for blockchain that will actually benefit brands. So, it's an exciting time for how we can actually deploy this stuff and get this into the hands of people who are tech enabling real world experiences. And we're finally starting to see that now. So, I'm worried about. I was worried about COVID for a long time. I was worried about when are people going to get back out into the world. But now we're seeing that in a big way. So really excited about this year and what's to come.
Thank you, Randall.
Hey, Randall.
Perfect answer. Thanks.
Hey,
Hey, Randall. This is Ganesh here. How are we doing?
What's going on? How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. So again, congratulations to you and the entire Phunware team on a excellent crypto project and a wonderful launch on the exchange.
Thank
when
you.
I hear you speak about the possibilities of utilizing the PhunCoin, PhunToken for the marketers, brands, etc., I totally agree with you. Question for you is, did you guys do any analysis on how did you come up with 100 million valuation for PhunToken, right? To me, it looks like even if you had priced it at $1 billion, it would still be underpricing it, right? Just looking at the potential you guys have. So was any analysis done on that, or just the smallest unit, as you mentioned?
It's a very insightful question. It sounds like you've done your research, and so we've been doing. People don't realize this.
Background, so
there you go. See, all right, see, I mean, it's
Yeah.
basically the cheapest piece of data you can buy, right? And so that's effectively why we landed on that. I know we live in the age of if you have 10 zeros and 1, everybody loves trading those because you can you got a sheep coin that you can double your money in with a quarter. But I think
when I see those valuations at 10 billion, 12 billion, and this wonderful project with perfect application 100 million, something doesn't seem right. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, and that's the challenge, and I think this is. People are always, we live in a very on-demand world, and we live in a very "what have you done for me lately" world. And so, to be an entrepreneur, to be an innovator, you have to be able to tune a little bit of that out. So I apologize to anybody, whether it's myself or anybody on the team. Sometimes we're flippant, sometimes we're short, sometimes we're condescending. We don't try to be too often. We want to create a professional community, and we want to create a professional forum for people to engage with us. We try to be transparent, but there's a lot of BS in crypto, and it really makes me mad because it's what's preventing mainstream adoption. It's preventing so many professional organizations coming into this ecosystem because it's acting very immature. It's like the Nigerian email scam. I mean, the minute you launch a project, out comes the woodworks. I mean, there's probably 20 of me on Telegram. Everybody's emulating my profile account. Everybody's trying to scam people. And so if you're head of digital communications for Reebok or for Ford, and you start seeing all that, and you're kind of brand new to blockchain, you're going to be like, what is going on? And so it's very wild west right now. And so we're being very purposeful about how we launch and then what we check on. And so a lot of these these market caps and volumes that you see in a lot of these tokens, a lot of that's synthetic. It's not real. And people kind of people are gotten very creative at not sometimes scamming, which hopefully hopefully it will become less and less of that, but sometimes misleading and misrepresenting. For us, we want to do things right. When we launch, we did a soft launch on PhunWallet with limited functionality for a very big reason. The minute we launched it, bot attacks, all sorts of scams, all sorts of security, attempted intrusions. And so, we take all that, we replicate it, we pivot, we learn, and we basically deal with all of those potential vulnerabilities. because you want to do them in small bite sizes. You don't want to have this big $10 million marketing push and then have something break. You want to have a $10,000 marketing push, check to see what might break, fix it so that you're ready for prime time. Same thing goes with what's happening right now in DeFi. We're not trying to blow out our market cap or blow out our liquidity or sell a bunch of tokens. We're testing things. We're seeing what happens. We're letting the scammers run their course. We're watching to see what people are doing. We're watching how to better protect the community. We're learning how to let that influence our roadmap. And so we're going slow by choice. I'm an ex-Army Ranger, and there's an old saying in the military, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And it's all about how you think about, how do you handle a weapon, in a firefight? And you just got to slow things down, calm things down, go through the, what you know you need to do, and you'll react faster than trying to speed through it and get real frantic and then just try to go. So, I'll never be, I've been shot at, blown up, stabbed. I will never be influenced by some keyboard warrior screaming at me to do a press release or do this or do that. Like it just goes right over my head. It doesn't bother me at all. And so for us, we really want to do this in a very purposeful way, not to be some flash in a pan, 4 weeks from now, but to be a dominant top 50, digital asset. And we don't say project because we're a company, but we want to be a top 10, top 5. I mean, why not? We have everything going for us. We're the first public company to be doing this. We can't rug pull people. We can't scam people. We are, bound to not only our public shareholders, but to the SEC and very clear regulations. So this is what, the entire crypto industry needs. They need people to stand up for what's right. They need people to be accountable. They need people to be transparent. They need people to be available. And so I'm on a soapbox. Let me get back to your original question. A penny is exactly what, the smallest, for those of you who don't know, because you do, is basically the cheapest piece of data you can buy. And so since we're trying to create a decentralized data economy, that initial kind of 1-to-1 ratio just made sense. One fun token per 1 penny of basically the cheapest data you can find. Now, do we think it's going to stay there? No, of course not. We think of PhunToken as the picks and shovels in our ecosystem that allow us to access kind of the gold mine that is data. Now, if you have a gold mine and you have a limited number of picks and shovels, the more people are interested in trying to mine that gold, the more valuable those picks and shovels become. And so with a cap supply, and as brands begin to understand all of the features and functionalities that they can get access to with PhunToken, we do expect the price to go up. And no, it will not be a penny forever on our portal. Think of our portal no different than, and again, it's only that 20% sale. We're selling to the people. We didn't go out and everybody's like, well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? It's like, well, what do you want us to do? Go sell it to a bunch of VCs, at 80% off, and then like every other single project, the minute it comes out, it just dumps because they're just selling it all on you. No, we didn't want to do that. We're just gonna methodically sell to consumers and brands, individuals, and we're not going to sell these massive blocks that end up hurting the ecosystem. And then we're going to grow responsibly over time. So we have that 20% that we're going to sell. If PhunToken's at 5 cents, we're not going to sell it for a penny. We're not stupid. And so think about that dynamic no differently than what you do with hotels. You have hotels that sell direct, and then you have hotels that sell rooms to aggregators like Expedia or Priceline. If you go to Expedia or Priceline, you can see all the hotels that you could possibly stay at in a city, all the different rooms. And you can buy through that aggregator. But I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, if you go to the actual hotel itself, their website, the price you pay will be cheaper. And so it's no different. You're basically choosing between cost and convenience. It's really convenient to do a swap in a decentralized exchange. it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to go to a buy portal, go through KYC, do all these things that we make you do, jump through all these hoops. Well, we have to do that because we're not going to sell somebody PhunToken if they haven't KYC'd. So if you're willing to do that and you're willing to be a part of our ecosystem and play by our rules, all right, why shouldn't you pay a little bit, better price? And if you don't want to do any of that, but you just want that quick speed, and maybe you're a day trader and you're doing all these things, sure, maybe Uniswap's better suited for you. So, at the end of the day, it's each person's individual journey. They'll get to decide what makes the most sense to them. But we've got a long-term approach to this, and really excited to kind of start growing this community now that we've kind of figured out where we want to be, and figured out that all our systems are actually working, our contracts are good, people are able to provide liquidity and stake. And so now we can start kind of marketing and growing awareness.
Great. Hey, thank you. And listening to you speak, it gives me even more encouragement. I don't think it should be 1 billion. It should already be 5 billion market cap, right?
My man. Well, we're gonna get there together. And so, and look at it like this, like
just a
how
couple
cool.
points, right?
Yeah, please go.
As you guys are thinking about how to price it, you should definitely look at all options. But a couple ideas would be like, as you roll out functionality, ahead of time, you could say, okay, now we're going to do something in profile. I guess when that gets launched, the price would be 2 cents. Some predictable pricing on the site that would encourage people to buy before that event, right? Or the other option could be, we have a 2 billion token sale, say 400 million approximately sold. The next 100 million would be at 1 cent. But once we sell off that 100 million, the next 100 million price could be 2 cents, right? So that would incentivize people to finish the supply sooner, right? These are all, I'm sure you guys are thinking of this, and there may be 20 different ideas. But just to summarize my thoughts, I love the team, I love the management, love the project. I think you guys are on something really big. The only challenge is going to be execution. And if you execute, I think you would be the top coin, probably top 3 easily. Okay. So I'll leave it at that, let other people talk, but really, really impressed by the company. Okay, thanks.
No, great comments and great suggestions. You're 100% spot on. I love what we were talking about a menu of services, and it's inspired a lot about what you kind of said, not even knowing, that you had that thought, but you're absolutely spot on. That token sale, allocation. We've been kind of thinking about how to maybe, tier that, and create that sense of urgency, but also, that demand for, the best tiers, because effectively, what you described and what we're trying to do is reverse the model. Everybody kind of is of this mindset of okay, well, is this a pre-listing, or is this a, token sale before the fact? Well, we spent our own money building it first, then we started selling it. So like most people don't do that. It's typically like you go raise a bunch of money, and then you use that money to build something, and then you don't really see something for, I don't know, a year, maybe 2 years if they're going lightning fast. So, normally you'd be like, okay, go sell PhunToken. And then there'd be this big event where we'd be like, okay, and now we're launching PhunWallet. Woohoo. And everybody'd be like, oh my God, it's live. Like, we didn't want to do that. We spent our own money to build PhunWallet first, to test the functionality, to be all in with you. And so, as you're 100% right, though, as we kind of, roll out those different features and functionality, thinking about, how to kind of tier that token sale, is certainly a very interesting thought. I appreciate that.
Hey, Randall, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Hey, I was just wondering, I'm curious if there's a possibility, and if it would be under consideration, if it is possible, of issuing PhunToken as a sort of a dividend for shareholders.
It's good, great. These are great questions. So we have been talking about this. If I could go there in the other room, I probably couldn't show you it because there's probably something on there. So a lot of us got together maybe 2 weeks ago. So we just announced today that we hired Chris Olive as our general counsel and chief legal officer, but he has a significant experience in blockchain securities regulations. And then we have another hire coming on that we haven't announced yet, that is also kind of critical to what we're thinking about in terms of our the economics of our crypto ecosystem. But you're spot on, man. This has come up numerous times, and in two regards too, right? So we have PhunCoin coming down the pipe, which is, it was just fully compliant, fully regulated. It's a security. We've been setting history ever since we started doing this. So we were the first company to go public with a token that actually we had made a security token, and then we created PhunToken as a utility token in parallel. But we've talked about, could we use that and dividend that out to shareholders? Could we dividend out, PhunToken? The jury's still out, so we're talking to our lawyers about that. But it's a great insight, and anything that we can do. Everything rolls up to shareholders, right? So as much as I love, our PhunCoin holders, as much as I love our PhunToken holders, at the end of the day, we're a public company. We're traded on NASDAQ. Everything is to maximize shareholder value. So it's to maximize PHUN. And so if there are ways in which we can leverage this ecosystem and maybe even create win-wins along the way, but if there's ways we can leverage this ecosystem and create some really cool means to reward shareholders, we absolutely will. And there's also some companies that I've actually been talking to about, the using PhunToken, where, I probably shouldn't discuss who they are yet. But there's kind of an emerging concept around, and it's why when you go into our PhunToken page, when you see those reward levels, like right now they don't really mean anything, but that will start to mean something, just like airline status means something. There's some interesting logic around, can you reward shareholders based on their holdings, maybe giving them additional, whether it's a straight dividend or if it's like swag or free tickets or things like that. So we've been talking to a few folks on partnering around that concept of being able to in real time take, okay, this person is a shareholder, here's how many shares they hold, and then this is what we can do for them because of what they share, or what they hold. So it's your ears must have been burning. We've been talking about it a lot. Nothing to announce, and nothing that we've even remotely been able to kind of formalize or sink our teeth into. But it's certainly been a topic of discussion.
Hey,
Sure,
Randall.
awesome. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I'm wondering if theoretically, trying to wrap my head around this, but would that help increase the value of PhunToken as well if it's being issued as a dividend, maybe causing shorts to have to cover with PhunToken or something like that? I don't know. I don't really understand the
It
technicalities
kind
on
of
it.
depends. I mean, and this is what everybody should be paying attention to. The challenge with anything, whether it's, and this is just more of a lesson in investment altogether, is all about your cost basis. So, what is your cost basis, and then how will that influence your decision making? So I'll be, very candid and very clear. People keep asking, and I'm sure it would have come up on this AMA, when can I, withdraw the fun token I've earned inside of the PhunWallet? Well, why? What do you want to do with it? Well, we all know what you want to do with it. You want to sell it. And if you earned it for answering a few surveys, you effectively have a cost basis of zero. So, that would theoretically create downward price pressure on fund tokens. So, for people who really believe in the ecosystem and really want to see it grow, y'all should be telling them, hey, look, we don't want your, zero cost basis fund token in the market yet. Let's create new opportunities for people to use fund token. Let's create new opportunities for people to hold fund token. Let's create new opportunities to give people a reason to not unload, their fund token. So, a lot of this is about building a healthy ecosystem, not just a race to the exit. And then there's just features and functionalities that we have to build into it. So, Fund Wallet in its current iteration is effectively a soft launch. It's an MVP, and so you go in there, you can fill out a couple surveys, and earn some fun token. That's just a proxy for us to figure out, one, how are bots going to attack us? Two, how do we reinforce security? Three, how do we basically map that to our back end to ensure that we're not only collecting data, but we're doing it in a responsible manner. We're segmenting audiences appropriately, because all of this is going to be important when we start commercializing this to brands. And so next you'll see things like, all right, well, I can do a rewarded survey. but I could also do a rewarded video, and I could also be told to go to a location, a rewarded point of interest. I can also, share content with a friend, or I can, do other things that would be valuing that engagement and driving that profitable behavior. And so once you can do all that and you can start doing things with your fund token, then that functionality will be better supported to enable like withdrawals and exchanges and things like that. So, we're working on all the back end stuff. We think it's a this year release. I think it's probably the second half of this year. And hopefully by then we'll have already checked off a bunch of other roadmap things that give people, a reason to not want to just unload their fund token. But we obviously know that people are going to, and that's what's, the great thing about a decentralized market is everybody gets to kind of make their own choice. It'll be our job to try to convince people that there's, a reason to hold, there's a reason to buy, and there's a lot more functionality coming.
Hey, Randall, it's Calvin. Calvin.
Hey, Calvin.
Hey. Are you concerned there's going to be any issues like Ripple had with XRP, that all of a sudden the SEC is saying, hey, you guys aren't really decentralized, you're more of a security, and they got into this whole legal mess?
Yeah, I mean, it's all you could say the same thing for everybody. I mean, you look at like, we're more like basic attention token, and so no issue there. I think what Ripple was doing that was different is, I mean, think about their use case and their value proposition. You are right smack in the middle of finance. I mean, you are trying to either compete or replace with Swift. You are working directly with banks. There is a very real currency component to what you're doing. And so I think it just looked a little different to regulators. Whereas for us, remember, what you're doing with Fund Token is accessing the features and functionalities of our, literally, it's a utility token. It's more so a utility token than I would say probably 95% of anything that's out there. And so as our system begins to grow, like if you download PhunWallet on iOS or Android today, and you see that rewarded survey, the way that would work in the future is, a brand would basically use Fund Token to deploy that rewarded survey. So let's say it would be 10 cents per Fund Token, or or per rewarded survey. So 10 Fund Token per rewarded survey. Well, it might be 5 to actually run it, and then 5 is the bounty for the consumer to engage with it. So the consumer gets 5, the brand, pays 5, and then, we're actually talking about things in ways in which, we can create reflections around even that transaction, so there's that 5 that they use, to deploy. 5 goes to the consumer. Can 5 go back into, treasury? Can it, can that help control token velocity? Can we, provide, does that help fund staking? Does it provide, does it fund buybacks? And so there will be a really great token velocity to that because of that utility. That's kind of primarily what obviously the SEC is looking for in terms of utility. They're also, looking for, the big ticket item is compliance, and then also, did you use it to raise money? So Ripple did use it to raise money. That was an issue, but others have too. Basic Attention Token did. So it's very much not a one size fits all right now. I think what you want to do is do your very best to, and Gensler just put out kind of these 4 points, but a lot of it, whether you believe them or not, it's kind of like, are you trying to protect consumers? Are you using it to raise money? Is there actually any utility in this whatsoever? And are you KYC and AMLing people that you issued to? And so we're doing those things. So we feel, and obviously I've got more lawyers than I can count. And so, we got through the SEC with PhunCoin when we went public. We've been, trying to work with the SEC in terms of, how we frame, the ecosystem we're building. Nothing is, risk-free for sure, not in crypto. But, I feel like if you're going to look for somebody to go after, are you really going to go after the one company trying to do it right? Or how about, the countless companies that are doing it wrong?
Yeah. Do you and Ellen own tokens?
Yep, everybody at Phunware owns PhunToken.
Okay.
I've always
Great.
believed in that, even when I was an investor. So I used to be a venture capitalist for a long time. Ownership's very important to us, and so when we bring people on, that kind of founder mentality where you have aligned incentives. Every single person here, owns shares of Phunware. Every single person, owns PhunToken. And I think we're really creating an environment where people, they help each other, they help the ecosystem, and it's kind of that one team, one fight that I think is important for just that culture of let's do something important here.
Great. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
I should have. We're working with the IR firm on the updated deck, so
Okay.
I should have that ready in the next week or so.
Super. Great. Thanks. See you later.
Thank you, Calvin.
Hey, Randall, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you great.
Hey, Ranger buddy, former third back guy here.
What's going
good to
on?
talk.
How are you doing?
Hey, doing all right. Thanks. Hope you're good as well.
Absolutely.
My question is, how much value do you see in connecting an ecosystem to social media platforms? And can you speak a little bit in depth to that?
Yeah, I think great question. Very insightful question. I think it's important, but I think it's changing now. So if you think about what's happening in the world, I think people are beginning to think, so let's use Instagram, for example. When it first came out, it was all about celebrity. Then celebrity kind of became influencer. Then influencer became, micro influencer. Then it became nano influencer. Everybody's really thinking about engagement. Like, just because you have big numbers, I mean, half the people are faking it. It's like, your subscribers or your followers, they're bought, they're paid for. You'll have somebody with 50,000 followers, and then they post a picture and 3 people like it. It's like, well, okay, you don't have 50,000 followers if 3 people like it. And so I think what brands are looking for, especially, or we've seen this with politicians as well, is using social media for top of funnel. So let's use social media for kind of broad reach awareness, and then let's try to move them to platforms where it can be better curated. You see it right now in crypto. People, you kind of by design have to have Telegram to start. Telegram sucks. Like, I mean, it's a mess. Discord's way better, but it's like you got to kind of graduate to that, and I got to get more active on Discord. It's a little bit more professional, and so let's use Telegram to grab people and then quickly move them to Discord. Let's use Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to grab people, and then let's move them to a platform of your choosing to kind of curate them and keep them involved. That's the essence of loyalty programs. It's, hey, let me get you to my property. I got you to, MGM. Now I want to get you, on, M Life, or, I got you to, some other, resort, Disney, and I want to get you now into my kind of loyalty program or something. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that. We're seeing that with how people think about our mobile software. We're doing this. We launched a political optimization of our platform where we're tying into social media, but then trying to get people to a platform that kind of can't be canceled. And so I think this idea of consumers being able to decide what they want and not being ruled by algorithms or things that they just don't know or understand is starting to become, regardless of political, leaning, it's beginning to become important. Like, people want to know that, the information they're getting is the information they want. And it's not, they're not missing out on things that might be interesting because, an algorithm said they wouldn't be interested.
What a great answer. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was a great question. And it's something we think about all the time, and we haven't cracked the code on it yet. But but you lead me to a good point. Integrations are also important. I think a lot of projects, features, products, companies, they kind of live in and of themselves. And we don't think about the world like that. We do think about it, many hands make light work. And so our platform was never designed to be one mobile application to replace them all. It's designed to be one mobile application to rule them all. So, we don't want to come in and say, oh, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, y'all all suck. Like, there's things about them that suck, but Lord, man, they have scale. And so let's leverage that scale and then get them, get those people who want to somewhere where they can get something out of it that's maybe a little bit different than what they're getting on those platforms. And then ultimately give the consumer an option to make that choice. And that's what we think about with data as well. So, we want to tell people, we want to collect data. We want to tell you why we want to collect it. And if you don't want us to, we won't. And if you want us to delete it, we will. And if you don't want us to ever sell it, we won't. And if you let us sell it, we'll cut you in on it. So it's like, why can't things be that simple? It should be, it's your data, you own it. And if anybody profits from it, so should you. What else?
Hi, I have another question about the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So Phunware as of now serves a lot of large brands that a lot of people know about. I'm curious, and maybe you can't really talk about this at this point, but I just want to poke at it to see if it works. But I'm curious if like current brands are going to be grandfathered into your token system, or like the reward system and software licensing will be separate offerings for Phunware.
Great question. So not, not necessarily grandfathered, but they certainly could be, so everyone will have the option for it. It's just an additional feature. So kind of like with that, cruise line example, yes, you could have a software license to deploy software. If you want to, extend the functionality of that software by incentivizing engagement, imagine, what if, I'm a casino and I want to reward people for being, in the casino. This happens already in a way. The more you, play the slots or you, do gaming, you get free drinks. And if you play enough, sometimes they'll comp your room and sometimes they'll, give you a free dinner or something or a free show. You can do the exact same thing. Hey, we've seen that you've been in the casino for over 60 minutes. You just start earning, PhunToken, or again, you could brand it whatever you want. You're earning casino coin, and tie that into, an experience where you're rewarding people for their behavior. The other thing is, you just reward people to influence people. You might want somebody to do something else or take an action, and you want to reward them for that. And so every customer that we have has usually a version of that. If I'm a hospital, I might want to reward people for showing up on time for their doctor's appointment. You know that it's a $50 billion a year problem in the US alone, patients being late or missing their appointments. 50 billion with a B, just because people can't get to their appointment on time or they forget it and miss it. That is an immensely solvable problem. I will pay you to show up on time because I'm paying for it if you don't. I will pay you to show up for your flight on time. I'll pay you to check bags so that you stop holding up everything trying to shove your massive suitcase into the overhead carry. There's all these things that businesses wish you would do more of. And so we want to give them an easy way to do that. And so, I'll pay you to come to happy hour because I know once I get you there, you're going to start drinking. It's all about that customer acquisition, that customer influence, that customer engagement. Like, let me get my hooks into you, and then I know I can get you to do something. Like, I know you'll love this artwork if I can just get you here. I know you'll love this experience if I can just get you here. I know your friend will love it if you'll just tell them about it. So we want to give people a new paradigm to do that. And so we'll go back through as these features roll out and we'll talk to all of our customers about it. We have unique thing about being a company, we have an entire customer success team. So having our customer success team reach out and say, hey, here's new features and functionality, do you want to incorporate it? And then, there's new customers that are actually coming to us, just for PhunToken out of the gate. Like, hey, how do I do this kind of blockchain as a service? We don't want to deal with the compliance, but we want to enable, rewards within our ecosystem. Can we just white label your stuff, and then piggyback on that? And so that's, I think, how we really begin to ramp, use cases for PhunToken. So your instincts are correct, but that'll come over time. So it's not, it's not going to be given to anybody. They'll have to, basically do another engagement with us to get it, and it's on us to sell it to them. But we'll announce those, as we go to the extent that we can.
That's exciting.
Hi, Randall. Yeah, sorry.
Hey, Dan. No, you're good.
Hi. So I heard that you touched ad fraud problems, because that's by 2023 they expect that this will be a 100 billion problem to solve.
Yeah.
With ad frauds.
Yeah.
And you already touched it a bit, didn't you?
Well, you bring up it's a huge point that I think a lot of people don't realize. So, it started, and oh, by the way, it's on the right side of history. So it started with GDPR in Europe. And so it's this idea that, privacy really matters. Then you started hearing people in the States talk about it, which led to CCPA, Consumer Protection Act in California. And so then all of a sudden, and people don't, I think this is probably the newer thing that people don't realize, the cookie, this, whenever you, I don't think a lot of people don't realize, even what a cookie is, but this concept of whether it's a cookie or a pixel tracking you online, that's all going away. Google's not even going to come up with a new solution. They're like, we're done. Like, we're not going to do this anymore. So what's happening with all of that is there's a transition from what's called third-party data. So think about that, like, I'm surveilling you, I'm monitoring you, I'm exploiting you, and you don't know it, and I'm just collecting your data, and I'm selling it to the highest bidder. That's really going away in a big way. And so the holy grail for brands is going to be first-party data, where I'm giving you the data as a consumer, and even more so, there needs to be almost an audit trail of, did I actually give you informed consent to use my data? And it'll be a little bit like the IRS. Like, you might be able to get away with, stealing people's data and using people's data and using third-party data. But if someone comes knocking, you better have a good reason for it. And it's going to create this massive liability. And so everyone in different ways are trying to handle ad fraud. That's actually the big idea behind what we're doing with PhunToken and PhunCoin using Phunware software. We want to create a truly decentralized data economy. So if you think about it, Bitcoin alerted the world that you didn't actually need a bank in the middle. And so you have all these financial transactions that can occur between two parties without a central authority in the middle. Why can't you do the same thing for data? Data is now the most valuable asset on the planet. Do I really need Facebook, Google, Experian, Equifax, or some other data oligarch in the middle? No, I don't. If I am a brand, if I'm Nike, and I want to reach Dan, we should be able to have a transaction. I should be able to buy your data. I should be able to engage you, and I should just pay you. Why am I paying Facebook? People will tell you what they like, what they don't like. They'll tell you when you can talk to them, when you can't. You just have to create a model that makes it efficient. And so blockchain really becomes this really interesting opportunity to create a new model that allows consumers and brands to transact without some big tech data oligarch in the middle. And that's what we want to give birth to effectively.
Thank you.
No, thank you. What
Hi,
else?
Randall.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well, pretty well. I'm pretty
Good to talk to you,
enthused about
Jacob.
Yeah, likewise.
I
I'm happy
appreciate
to
all the
be-
engagement, all the good questions. They're always good ones.
Definitely, you'll hear them coming also going forward. I'm here for the long run, so
My man.
and also, yeah, I have a few questions. It's of a rather technical origin, I guess. When it comes to the liquidity pool, one thing that I don't comprehend fully is the current APY. It seems like a big figure, but when I calculate my own rewards, I cannot come to a sort of an interest rate that goes to that amount. So it seems like very big compared to what I actually do earn.
Yeah, so think about it. It's less of what Jacob, the individual is earning, and kind of what is it. It's more of a straightforward calculation. So It's not your personal, APY, but it would be if there was only one person in the liquidity pool. So you might not have been on when we first started the call. But what I was saying is when that liquidity pool gets created, so specifically to PhunToken, we have 5 million PhunToken for this first 30 days that's going to go out effectively in a very quick time interval. But let's assume, for round numbers per day, 167,000, a little bit less than that, but 167,000 PhunToken per day. If on day one, there's only one person in the liquidity pool, they would get all 167,000. And on day two, let's say someone joins you, you would split it. And so as people add liquidity, it's all pro rata, or basically your percentage of the liquidity pool. So you might be a smaller percentage of the liquidity pool. So overall, the liquidity pool, is saying, okay, I've got this many rewards to distribute across this many people. Assuming, all of those people are providing liquidity, this is the APY. But each one of those individual people, based on how much, their liquidity, is providing, then they'll get their pro rata portion. So you can go into, we just added a new kind of calculator that I think will kind of help, make some of this make a little bit more sense, and give you kind of a little bit better sense, individually how to think about this stuff. And we'll keep adding tools like that to try to make it make a little bit more sense. But effectively, we'll never know. It would be impossible. I mean, I guess I've got some really smart people, and they're on this call. So theoretically, I say nothing's impossible. But it'd be a lot more complex to consider what the individual, APY is, versus the total liquidity pool API. That's what that APY. That's what it's showing. The total liquidity pool.
I mean, Randall, just a quick follow up on the guy. In your example, the one guy takes the 5 billion on the first day. Let's say he cashes it
Takes
out.
the 167.
167, and
yeah. So remember, it's going to be distributed. So if you took the smallest time interval, which I think is like 10 seconds, but you take that 5 million and you divide it by that time interval,
right.
That's what's going out, because people can stake and unstake. We wanted to give them that freedom, and there's no tax on it. And so what I'm doing is basically assuming kind of round numbers just for the sake of argument, but over that 30-day period, you're basically giving out 167,000 PhunToken a day. So just because you're not going to be able to get it all in day one.
Yeah, I'm just saying that guy gets his 167,000 and cashes it out, and then the next guy joins like an hour later. There's nothing for him, right?
No, because that's small. Again, I was using day just to kind of make a point. The intervals are down to like 10 seconds. So basically, there's PhunToken being distributed to the liquidity pool, basically less than a minute. So you're not going to be able to kind of there'll be another interval right around the corner.
Okay. Yep. Sorry.
No. It's a very good question, because I mean it's hard to and that's the beauty of blockchain. I mean it's 24/7, 365, and what we're trying to do is replicate what the banks were doing. I mean, this is what banks do. So normally, if you a lot of people are new to crypto, but I mean, if you went back to ICO days or IEO days after that, you couldn't list on a centralized exchange without hiring a market maker, because there's always a liquidity issue. Banks have been doing this since the dawn of double entry accounting. I mean, you're always thinking about how do you provide liquidity. And so the promise of these decentralized exchanges is, hey, why don't we do that? Why don't people do that? Banks are out there making all these fees. If anybody ever seen Billions, at a show, there's all he wanted to do in the world was own his own bank, because it's like that was real wealth, that was real power. And the promise of decentralization is the people can be the bank. Why not let's provide our own liquidity. Let's make our own markets. We control it. And as that grows and that concept takes hold, I mean, it is the single greatest innovation in commerce, but probably finance, since the Medicis came up with double entry accounting. I kid you not.
I have a follow-up question, Randall, here. I mean, I calculate, I'm not a mathematician here, so take it with a grain of salt, but I calculate my APY, my personal APY, to be something like 72%, which is still it's a great deal. I mean, I cannot get that anywhere in the financial system. So I'm happy to stay. Staked, of course, my APY will go down as more liquidity is provided to the pool, and that's fine. That's the game. As the 30-day window shuts off, is a new liquidity pool automatically created so that I can remain staked without having to pay gas fees?
Correct.
Can you talk
Correct.
about that?
Yeah, and so we're gonna keep that going, and it'll change too. So effectively, within the contract, you kind of set rewards and you set duration, and so every 30 days we'll evaluate that. I don't see us changing it anytime soon, but I mean, there's nothing to say we wouldn't double do 10 million fund token in 30 days, or which obviously would have an impact on everybody's APY, or so we might tie to different marketing campaigns or different things we're doing. We'll be monitoring that and assessing that. But yeah, 100%. That's not going away anytime soon, and you can kind of you can stay staked.
That's great, because I mean, like I told you in the beginning, I'm here for the long run. I don't want to unstake and stake and keep paying the gas fees. I'd rather buy more fund token with my money.
Absolutely,
So, yeah.
and we hear you on that too. I mean, don't get us wrong. The challenge with crypto right now is the ecosystems are all smoke and mirrors. So everyone only thinks of crypto in terms of trading. And so nobody's, I love when people ask, like, what can you do with it? And I did this in a live conference. I said, all right, I'll answer that question if you can, name 5 things you can do with, 5 tokens you currently hold. Like, no one could. I mean, everyone just trades. And so everyone's like, well, what about Solana? What about Algorand? Like, okay, what are you doing with it right now other than trading it? Well, nothing. Exactly. So, they all sound cool, but they're all built on a promise that is yet to be realized. Oh, we have all this great transaction, volume and blah, 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 which is fine. But then you start peeling back the onion and you realize that they can't handle a lot of other things. So when we talk about this all the time in mobile. When you punt all the hard problems, yes, you can do things cheaply. But guess what? Things crash. So we set live streaming records concurrently every match of the World Cup for Fox. Google crashed, YouTube crashed, we never crashed. At one point, I think, and I don't know if it still stands true, but we set the live streaming record period during the Sochi Olympics for an event streamed on mobile. So we are very good about what we do. We understand what it takes to basically, be engaged with brands at the highest level who cannot afford to fail at scale. And so, we're trying to kind of bake that in a lot, to what we do, and make sure that we're kind of doing things in a responsible manner. And hopefully kind of the community will realize that and grow with us and kind of, be patient with us as we do things, as right as possible. But we're going to keep rolling out new features, new support for kind of how to think through this, new ways to earn, new reasons to hold, and we certainly appreciate kind of your patience and your commitment to that. But we think it'll be rewarded in the long run.
That's great,
I have
Randall.
another
Thanks a lot.
question, Randall.
Yeah, what's up?
If PhunToken went live on March 31st, are we to expect that the value of that is added to the balance sheet for Q1 earnings, or would we have to likely wait until Q2 earnings for that to be added to the balance sheet?
Great question. So it's not actually, doesn't have anything actually tied to do with that March 31st kind of go live. Phunware doesn't, and then again, beauty of decentralization. Phunware doesn't go live. Phunware doesn't list. PhunToken gets paired with ETH, and that effectively creates a trading pair and a contract on Uniswap, and then it is effectively available in live. And so, anytime any person is holding, a token, if you will, an ERC20 token, you can create that liquidity pair, even if it has not yet been created yet. And so again, you don't have to rely on a central authority, to do anything. You don't have to rely on Phunware to do anything. And so that event would not have an impact on, Phunware's, balance sheet or P&L. But you ask a very good question, another very insightful question. As you think about our two digital assets, and so, and I use these terms, specifically. So I think as everybody's beginning to educate themselves on this really awesome, new, innovative space, you wanna learn as much as you can. There's very real power in these words. So a cryptocurrency means something entirely different than a token. And a utility token means something entirely different than a security token. And a digital security actually means something different than a digital asset. And so all of these terms kind of matter, but people are learning as we go. So, I think for us, the key to remember is PhunToken. Anytime we sell that, whether it's to a consumer or a brand, that's a revenue event. So, as we sell that in the quarter, that would be recognized revenue in that quarter once we distribute it, which usually only takes, roughly 24 hours. So once we distribute that, that gets recognized in the quarter in which it was distributed. PhunCoin, when that becomes live, that's more of a balance sheet item. So because that's a security token, once we have, and what'll happen next is we're going to file for a Reg A that'll allow us to begin, selling, PhunCoin on Securitize's platform to both accredited and unaccredited once it's approved, then, or once it's effective, then, that will be just think of it like non-dilutive cash financing. So PhunCoin, cash to the balance sheet, PhunToken, cash, but we get to recognize it as revenue.
Got it. That makes sense. So it sounds like likely for once we get our Q2 earnings report pulled in, that's when we'll start seeing, based off what Alan has mentioned in the past, when PhunCoin goes live sometime in Q2, we might be seeing that at that point in time.
Yep. So PhunCoin live in Q2, but remember that'll be live for the people who have already kind of invested. So that was that Reg CF, the Reg D, and then our Series F. I wouldn't see us selling PhunCoin ourselves until probably Q3, depending on how. And I just assume the SEC takes forever on everything, so we'd have to have that Reg A in place. We could still sell on a Reg D. So we could still sell to accredited investors, but we're really building this for everybody. So you could see some balance sheet cash from the sell of PhunCoin in Q2, but it would probably have to be to accredited investors. And then you could possibly see cash to the balance sheet through the sell of PhunCoin in Q3 to unaccredited investors, assuming we have a Reg A in place. And then along the way, any sales of PhunToken will show up as revenue on the P&L. But remember, we also wouldn't necessarily anything that's trading on Securitize. We obviously don't report on because that's just happening between two different people. It has to be us selling it.
Sure. Yeah. One more question, and I think I'll be done. So,
Yeah, hit me.
is the max supply on PhunToken and PhunCoin fixed, or is it kind of a finite supply where more can be created
Fixed.
later on? Okay.
Fixed.
Awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm gonna stay on this. I got to move to another meeting, but I'm gonna stay on as long as y'all want to stay on, at least for a little bit longer. I know we're over time, but I'm gonna kill my video, but I'm gonna stay on if anybody else wants to keep chatting. You just don't have to look
Randall.
at my ugly mug.
Hey, Randall, this is Ron. I just wanted you to elaborate on the phrase one app to rule them all, and how that was developed, and how did you guys come up with that concept, and maybe just elaborate just a second or two on that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, and one, I appreciate that question because I love talking about the actual ecosystem behind the scenes. Rejoin here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go. Now we're talking. All right. So, great question. And so, basically, the way to think about this is when we first started doing mobile applications, and we were trying to think about all these features and functionality, we were doing it to basically gamify an experience. And so that's where the name came from, Phunware. How do we build mobile applications that exhibit game-like mechanics and behavior? So once we kind of cracked the code on that, we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could take all the things we know about mobile, and if we could basically create a platform that would allow us to license mobile software the same way you would license a CRM from Salesforce. And that was important because every time you build a mobile application, say you hire 2 Freds in a shed to pound away on a keyboard and build you a mobile app. Well, Google and Apple change something because they're monopolies, or something, there's an update, there's a new coding language, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what do? That app, breaks, it doesn't work anymore, and you have buggy functionality, and that's your outward representation of your brand. You can't, customers will uninstall your app in a second if it's buggy. And so we wanted to be able to kind of create a new model. And we knew this was going to be important because a lot of the customers that we work with now, they don't have big engineering teams or digital strategy teams. You have a hospital who, if they're lucky, they have like a CS undergrad, kind of trying to run their whole operation. And so they just needed stuff to work. And so what we realized in beginning to transition our platform into this kind of SaaS model is that there's too much complexity in any venue. So we just launched at Norfolk Southern in Atlanta, Georgia. Norfolk Southern, if you've driven past a train station or a railroad in the last 50 years, you've seen train compartment cars go by, big Norfolk Southern and a horse on them. So one of the largest railway operators in the world, massive new headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. They came to us and said, we want an office of the future. We want to be able to do everything from a mobile device. So like, I'm being a nerd here, but old school tricoder. Like I want to be able to use my mobile device to do everything. And so when we started looking at that, we said, okay, what is that going to entail? And when we kind of peeled back that onion, we realized, holy crap, they use one company for parking management. They use Microsoft Teams for all their conferencing. They use Outlook for all their scheduling. They use Lutron for lighting, Carrier for heating and cooling. They use somebody else for room booking, and it just goes on and on and on. So fast forward to our deployment now, there's one mobile application. So Norfolk Southern mobile application, they call it Fusion 360. You open that application if you're an employee, and it has access to everything you could ever imagine in that office building. And so we're up to like 27 different integrations. Those are 27 integrations with other companies. So our platform is ruling 27 other ecosystems, and we're ingesting those into our mobile application and ensuring that is in one seamless mobile experience. So I could literally be leaving my office, walking out the door, going to a conference room, and be able to, and I'm walking down there, and it's like, holy crap, John's still in there, yammering away, and he's taking up my conference room, but I had it booked. But I got people downstairs waiting to come up for a really important meeting. What do? I can in Norfolk Southern now, with a swipe of a finger, you can find an open conference room, book that conference room. You can send security credentials down to your guests, send them directions directly to that new conference room. You can reroute catering in case you forgot catering, or you can order catering in case you forgot it. You can find, Brian, who is, late to the meeting, wherever he is, somewhere else, and tell him the new conference room. You can set up all the AV. You can lower the air conditioning because it's too hot because it wasn't a used conference room. You can change the lighting. You can access, everything you would possibly need to basically on the fly, operate in that office building. And so, the same thing can go for different use cases for different industries. That's just our smart workplace solution. But that gives you a really good understanding of ruling, not replacing. Like we didn't go in there and say, hey, Norfolk Southern, we're going to be your new lighting control system. We're going to be your new room booking system. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of companies that do these things very well. So like when we go into a hospital, we don't create a new electronic health record. We integrate with Epic, Cerner, Meditech. They already have, multi-billion-dollar industries built around EHRs. Let's just integrate those and then give them a seamless mobile platform to access them. That way you're getting the best of everything you have in a venue. And each venue is kind of custom to what they do. Our platform is the same, but one hospital might use Epic, another hospital might use Cerner. One hospital might use one POS system. I mean, one hotel system might use Salto locks for their room doors. Another one might use HID for the room doors. And so all of these things we want to make very easy, very accessible. One great mobile experience to basically access everything you could possibly want or need while you're at a venue. And we want to turn every single location into a smart location, every single venue into a smart venue. So I always say, if everything that you buy seems like it's Phunware enabled, everything that you buy seems like it's now Amazon enabled. I want everything you experience to be Phunware enabled.
I understand. Thank you so much. Just as a side note, I'm working the construction industry, mechanical. So I'm anxious to see what you guys are going to have coming out with Carrier in the future. I'm primarily plumbing design, but I interface with the mechanicals in our office all the time. So I'm looking looking forward to it. I can think of some applications even on the plumbing side that you could probably have some use for too. But thank you so much. I won't take any more of your time.
No, hey, please, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you tuning in.
So Randall, I have another comment for you. That comment from another participant on the call in regards to dividend payout in crypto, either being it PhunToken or PhunCoin, whatever it might be, if it's feasible at all. I love that idea because it would maybe help putting a buy pressure on your fund shares, because people get a bargain for that. The flip side, of course, is that they might dump the crypto because they have zero cost on the coins or the token. So I get the difficulties there. I just want to leave with you the comment that I often have issues being resident or using outside of the US, using a foreign for brokerage, if you will. Whenever I have to vote for whatever happens on the General Assembly, I can't vote. I can't cast my votes for whatever reasons. So if I am to document my ownership in some sort of external third-party loop, I don't know how that would work. So I love the idea of dividend, but I don't know how I would ever receive those coins or tokens. If you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, I certainly know what you're getting at. I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't have a good answer. I'm sure we could figure it out, but that would be it makes me think about blockchain. I mean, it's like that's a stupid problem to have. It's like we live in a world where that should not be a problem, and that's I think what blockchain is trying to solve in so many ways is these stupid problems. It's like I earned it, I deserve it. Why? And you can verify that I deserve it. Why can't you just make it easy for me to get it?
I've wasted so much time calling brokerage just trying to cast votes. I mean, it's my right to cast a vote for General Assembly, but I can't for whatever reason. So I've sort of given up on that and just thinking about that idea of rewarding Phunware shareholders with crypto, native Phunware crypto. It's great, but I don't know how I could ever get custody of those.
I bet. I mean, I honestly think that, and this is kind of what we want to do with data. I mean, it's not just me and you talking. I mean, I think, being able to verify someone's identity. Because and here's an important point. I mean, I think a lot of people always think because especially the traders, they're like, God, the buy portal is too much friction, and why aren't you doing this, and why aren't you doing that? Yes. There is a very powerful value proposition to crypto, especially with the name crypto, that everyone always kind of thinks of anonymity. I don't think that anonymity is the big idea behind blockchain. In fact, I think it's the exact opposite. I think the big idea behind blockchain is radical transparency. Now that doesn't mean I want you to give me your social security number. It doesn't mean I'm going to show up at your kid's playground. Radical transparency is an auditable record. Still, it can be anonymized. I should be able to know someone's KYC without knowing what their name is. I should just be able to know that they're KYC'd, and now the SEC is not going to be mad at me if I transact with them. And so there's layers of blockchain that I think can allow people to, get paid for their data, can, help them with elections, can help them receive dividends where, if you're owed something and, I think between Phunware, we could verify, ownership and verify you and use a wallet address to distribute something to you. So, I say all that to say that I think it might not be solved today, but I think I'm seeing really great movement in this being solved in a way that, people can no longer be interfered with when it comes to something that is rightfully theirs.
Absolutely. That sounds great and makes a lot of sense. And I just wanted to leave that challenge with you if you were able to go down the avenue of paying out dividend in one of your native crypto coins or tokens.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll tell you, it's not, I'm not telling you, anyone kind of material, non-public information. A lot of this is, public and we've talked about it, but there's been very real conversations about, our platform helping support, different elections, abroad. And so like, how would we do that? How could we do that? And so again, we're having fun right now, pun intended, let's create some loyalty programs. Let's reward people for filling out surveys. But remember, at the end of the day, these are just proxies for curating and managing consumer data and how you engage with the world around you. And so that can be as simple as filling out a survey, or it could be as simple as casting a ballot. Two totally different, value propositions, but the same technology, and two totally different impacts, possibly on the world. And so I think, this starts here, but it's a much bigger idea. And so this is a huge swing for the fence. And, if we can pull this off, it's massive.
Yeah, Randall, I was just going further, helping the U.S. elections.
Man, ain't that the truth? And I'll tell you something funny that a lot of people don't realize. So people ask about our industry focus. There's things that I tell our salespeople not to focus on. They'd be perfect use cases for our software, but there's things that people don't realize unless you've really been in business. So people always say, oh, you should be in malls, and we've done malls before. But the challenge with malls is who pays for it. The Simon malls, the kind of property owner pay for it, or do the underlying brands inside the mall pay for it? We did AT&T Stadium, and guess what? AT&T Stadium thought the Cowboys should pay for it, and the Cowboys thought AT&T should pay for it. Both of them are richer than some small countries, but both of them are cheap when they think someone else should pay for something. And so, we talk about grocery stores all the time, or retailers, where we'll say, hey, we can use our software to help your consumers find what they're looking for. And they will look you dead in the eye and they'll say, we go through great lengths to make sure consumers get lost. So they'll buy stuff they weren't looking for. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, actually. So, we've actually evolved that to start thinking about promoted routes. So giving people, routes based on their data to route them by things that they would buy to optimize that. And we also do it in reverse. We do optimized restocking. So there's always something we can do, but it's always interesting to know what people's, justifications are. And I say all that as a lead in to say, we could make elections fair and transparent. I don't know that that's the intention of anybody in, the political ecosystem. I don't think they necessarily want them to be fair or transparent. I also think the same goes for the financial industry. We could, with blockchain, very easily, get rid of dark pools. You could get rid of naked shorting. You could make it fair for retail investors, and you could make it a real pain in the ass for, the people who are nefarious. But the people who are nefarious are in control, and they don't want to give up that competitive advantage. So, I think this will still take some time. Every great revolution starts with people saying, hey, there's got to be a better way. And then eventually that gives way to God damn it, I bet there's going to be a better way, and I'm going to force it to happen, and then people start taking action. And so I think we're starting to see that. We're getting the technology in place. The sentiment is beginning to change, and I hope that in our lifetime we see some very real change, whether it's elections, the financial industry, and just kind of giving more power back to the people.
Yeah, great. Randall, do you think that's why the ad fraud problem is such a big problem? That there are parties that make a lot of money, of course, but the ones who are supposed to prevent it don't really do that. You understand what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I mean, it is, we had a very real issue happen to Phunware that was very preventable. It was market manipulation. And it was, due to some actions the SEC took when we went public. And, it's funny, if you have a problem with the police, you can contact the IA. If you have a problem with, elements of the Army, you can contact, JAG or UCMJ. But if you have an issue with the SEC, I'll give somebody 100 PhunToken if they can find somewhere to have a ruling body that can review the actions undertaken by the SEC. I couldn't find it. We couldn't find it.
And Elon Musk couldn't find it either.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They rule absolutely. And unfortunately, that creates a weird dynamic where it's, who are you serving? And look, at the end of the day, I don't, just like the FDA, I don't want to live in a world without the SEC. I don't want to live in a world without the FDA, but that doesn't mean they couldn't do their job better. And, they owe it to the people to do it better. But it's just such a machine. There's so much kind of, collusion and relationships at play. It's just it's a tough nut to crack for sure.
Yeah, and we saw Elon Musk buy Twitter now, or parts of it. And it seems that he wanted to create his own media platform, but he instead bought Twitter perhaps to have more influence.
When you have FU money, I tell you what, it is pretty interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And I think that's...
You don't have to answer this question. You don't have to answer it. But are you flirting with Elon in that sense as a company? But don't answer it. I don't think you can.
He did move. He did. I love him. He moved to Austin. I think Austin's going to become a very interesting center of gravity for like-minded thinkers who all view that technology platforms should serve the people they serve. They shouldn't serve the people who created them. And that's a very important distinction, because a lot of people will say, well, I risked it all. I made a bunch of mistakes. I risked a bunch of money, and I built this platform. So, I control it. I didn't build a government agency. I built Facebook. I built Twitter. And so I should be able to profit from it, as if there's no, social contract being created, if there's no, moral commitment to society. At the end of the day, I look at like entertainers. You make your money off of the people. The people come and see you. The people pay tickets. So when you get mad that someone wants to take a picture with you, oh, fuck off. Don't be a celebrity then. You live a life everyone else wishes they could, live, and you do it because people, fantasize about being you, and they attend your events, and then you get mad when they want, to be in your aura. Screw that. You've built a social media empire on society. You owe society a certain duty of service, a certain duty of care. And so I think, that's what Elon is looking to do, is kind of say, okay, are the algorithms, appropriate? Is the admitted censorship appropriate? Because I think people always feel like, well, there's so many people, it probably isn't that big of a deal. But if you study the numbers, thousands of people make a difference in elections, not millions, thousands. And so when you start censoring content and you can convince somebody of something, or maybe someone doesn't get exposed to something that might have changed their mind. You know, when you basically create echo chambers for people on these large platforms, because you're just talking to people who already agree with what you think, then all of a sudden the power of these, you know, algorithms become very apparent. And so I think that's where we're going to see, you know, Elon's, you know, perspective on this is, you know, how do we democratize engagement? How do we democratize data? How do we, you know, level the playing field a little bit better? And that's exactly what we believe. That's exactly what we want to do. And so I think, you know, it's really exciting to see that. I think you see it in a lot of different ways. I mean, people are approaching it in different ways. Some of it's a little bit, you know, more political than others. But I think at the end of the day, everyone is kind of saying, wait a minute, there's a glitch in the matrix. You know, these big companies wield too much power. Like, and nobody talks about it, right? So, like, regardless of what you think of Trump, the fact that a technology CEO could silence a sitting president is terrifying. No court, no jury, no subpoena, no judgment, no citation, just, nah, I don't think you should use this platform to communicate to people anymore. That's a very scary thing. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if it happened to Biden, Obama, Trump, Bush, does not matter. You should not be able to do that to a sitting president. I don't care who you are or what you built or how rich you are.
So with that said, knowing now what Phunware is going to do, maybe there's a marketing approach in order to for Elon to get his eyes on Phunware.
Yeah, I think what you want to do, I mean, and so, you know, there always is, and there's always different strategies. I think what we really want to do, and where I think this could really go, is we want to be able to, you know, it's like, so for example, Twitter is not, none of these platforms are designed to help consumers segment and curate their own data. They weren't built that way. They were never marketed that way. And just like IBM never wanted to get into the personal computer space, they're never going to change because they don't have to. But you don't need to replicate a Facebook or Twitter in terms of scale in order to have a very real impact and a lot of value. So what we want to do is not just curate, you know, source and curate data for the sake of sourcing and curating data. We want to be able to manage this, it's called a knowledge graph, but manage this graph database of consumer data that is blockchain enabled, that then serves almost, think of it like a primary chain, and then all of these different ecosystems are effectively side chains. And so you can, you know, your phone represents a node. You know, you are, you know, it is your data. You control where it goes, who uses it, why it's being used, and, you know, different ecosystems can basically have what, you know, in Web 2 terms would be an API call back to your data. So, you know, I am in another ecosystem. I can just have a login, but you don't have access to any of my data, but you can have access to the audience segments that I reflect in this ecosystem. So, you know, Twitter is no longer, you know, surveilling and exploiting your data, but it's serving up, you know, interesting articles, ads, or content based on your, you know, Phunware enabled data profile that you control, that is just telling Twitter what advertisements to show, what feeds you want. So it's one source of truth. So instead of every single platform fighting to try to exploit you, you have one center of gravity that is you, and you're telling people what's important to you. And it's your data, you're in control, and you can cut that feed anytime you want. And anytime someone wants to throw an ad unit your way after playing Words with Friends or doing something on your phone, guess what? They paid for that data, but instead of paying Facebook for that data, they paid you for that data. So they paid you for the right to advertise to you. That's the way it always should have been. That's the way we want to
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah, and because of greed, that was never the case. But
Exactly.
in a hypothetical future, what if I could watch a YouTube clip, and because I chose that YouTube clip, I get paid in Phunware tokens or whatever. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's right. And oh, by the way, they promote the YouTube clip to watch based on the data profile that you created, in the Phunware decentralized data economy. So they don't need to know anything about you to know what to serve you. They should just be able to magically in the background ping. And so this is that, as people are educating themselves to this, and this is why we bought Light. So you have, Web3 is not a technology, it's a concept. Web2 is everything that we know of the existing internet. Now, most consumer facing applications could never be ported on chain. They're just you couldn't put Facebook on a blockchain, not anytime soon, maybe a DAG, but even then it would probably melt it. And so, what ends up happening is you're going to need a bridge between kind of, the data that is in Web 2 to the applications that are kind of Web 3 applications. And we live in a mobile first world that's quickly becoming mobile only. So the lion's share of that is going to be mobile, which positions us well. And so, we bought Light to effectively decentralize data centers. So, just like Bitcoin only exists because you have, a bunch of people who invested in a bunch of computers and put them in a warehouse to run a bunch of, computations, the same thing is true for data. And so you have cloud services and all these really cool software products because Amazon invested in data centers all over the world. Well, that becomes, again, your central authority. Like, what if they want to shut that down? What if they want to kill your data feed? The beauty of Bitcoin is you can't kill it. You can't visit the office. And so we want to do the same thing with data. But to do that, you still need that infrastructure. So rather than having a big data center filled with a bunch of computers, could you, not tomorrow, but could you eventually have a bunch of computers all over the world with, high performance GPUs, running, the software required to bridge the gap between Web 3 and Web 2? You could. It's a big idea. It's what we want to do. It's why we want to control our value chain. And it's why we want, PhunToken and PhunCoin to be, both a store of value and a unit of measure, a measure of exchange inside of a medium of exchange, inside of that ecosystem. And so we're just putting these different pieces of the puzzle in place. Just like for 10 years, Jeff Bezos was building, warehouses in the middle of nowhere and no one knew what he was doing. Well, he was building an unbeatable competitive advantage in on-demand economy. We want to build an unbeatable competitive advantage in on-demand experiences.
Or like Elon with his electric cars.
Exactly.
So Web 3 is threatening Web 2. And if hypothetically Phunware could be like a bridge, I mean, telling the Web 2 companies that you should really give back to your to your watchers or clients or whatever you call it, by sending them tokens. That would be cool.
Absolutely. What else? All right, we've got time for a couple more.
Hey, Pivotal here. Is there any plans for a NFT in the future for PhunToken?
Say that again. Sorry, cut out for a second.
Said, is there any plans for NFTs for PhunToken in the future? And
yeah, absolutely. So we've got a couple. Some. Again, pun intended. Some for fun and some more serious. And so, we've got some fun things and some fun merch that we're doing. We've got the Funverse that a couple colleagues are building out, and that'll be exploratory discovery, a lot of different ways to engage. We're creating different Phunware swag that can be available both in the metaverse and as NFTs. But I think my longer term excitement is could you effectively turn, your data into that NFT? Could you use the same construct, if now let's be real. And again, if you haven't been in the space, NFTs are a way for people to get around, securities laws. So people are just, again, there's a reason why, in the past, in prisons, people used to trade cigarettes. Now they trade, cans of mackerel because it's basically, one can of mackerel is $1, so it's a good unit of measure, and so it's a medium of exchange. And NFTs are another version of that. Like, is the artwork really valuable? Not really. And, is it really that protected? Theoretically, but does anybody really give a shit? I mean, people are always like, well, can I just screenshot it? Well, then it's not the original. Well, who cares? Like, so it ends up, being just a unit of measure. If I can buy it today and sell it to somebody else, then I've kind of skirted securities laws and, everybody wins. So crypto will continually evolve in that fashion. And so, now if I'm Banksy and I have, digital art, okay, I get that. But if I'm just one more graphic designer painting a hat on an ape, is that really valuable? Well, if somebody else thinks it is. And so it's all about marketing and faith. So for us, I don't really get too jazzed about that. I don't want to just be another fad, but I like the concept of I've got artwork, I can verify it's mine, and then every time it transacts, I can get a royalty or a percentage of that. That's interesting, because now if you strip away the artwork and replace it with data, is that not effectively the same thing? Could I create an NFT that is effectively, almost like a QR code for my own data? And so instead of artwork, it's just a QR code that represents me and my audience segments. And I could walk into a, hotel room of the future and, scan my QR code, and that NFT represents all of the audience segments and things that are important to me. And it automatically sets all my settings and, what I want to see, the temperature I want, the lighting I want, shows restaurants on the TV that it might be around that I want because I love Japanese food. Like, is there a future in which that kind of, digital passport is, a representation of an NFT that is you and your data, and then every time that data is sold, that's how we track that compensation. Yeah, I haven't, it's something that I just kind of noodle on. We haven't, baked that into the roadmap yet. But we have kind of these product innovation series where we talk about a lot of the things that we think are kind of art of the possible. And that is certainly, something that we kind of consider, how can we use the NFT construct and concept, but for data and royalties towards data instead of artwork.
Hey, Randall.
Yeah, what's up?
Wester, just a quick question. Maybe, I don't think you answered it, but you were talking about various solutions. When you think of smart city, I'm very, very interested in hearing how you've seen that progress with PhunToken, PhunCoin, and how that solution's progressing. Thanks.
Yeah, so we did launch. So right now it's still nascent, and it kind of goes back to this, this idea of I need better ways to capture, top of funnel and move it, to bottom of funnel so that I can kind of really stay top of mind. So we launched our first smart city solution in Pasadena, and that was really the mayor just looking for a better platform to engage residents and visitors. So hey, I want to report a pothole. I want to know, a directory for, important people in the city. And people are starting to think about that one step further as, can I create a digital chamber of commerce? So can I, understand what, businesses are in town, what everybody's doing, and create kind of a center of gravity around a mobile application that becomes a smart city. But then there's a whole other taking it one step further, and we've talked about this with a few city leaders, where it really becomes an immersive, application where, you're able to access a bunch of different businesses and features. Because I think one of the things that, is always a limiting factor for businesses is that upfront investment to have their own mobile application. And so part of that pitch for cities is, why don't we do this mobile application one time for the whole city, and then every single business can just have a profile inside of that mobile application. So I can go to Austin, and instead of having 1,000 different applications for all the restaurants and bars and malls and stores that I want to go to, I just have a City of Austin app, and then all those businesses have to go to the City of Austin to have a profile. But in that profile, you have all of the experiences and tools for engagement that you would ever want in your own mobile app, but just as a profile instead. So think of that like Open Table. Open Table doesn't, every restaurant doesn't need to have their own mobile application, but they all want the reservation functionality. And so Open Table gives them one mobile application to rule them all. So could we do the same thing, with a city for their experiences, or just use PhunWallet for everybody? So even, do we even need cities at that point? Could I, we have this as a part of our roadmap, but the ability to enter into an immersive experience through a profile selector. So, you have PhunWallet on your phone, you show up and it's like, welcome to Miami. And all of a sudden, inside of PhunWallet, you have an immersive application experience. That's the power of building this on a platform, so that application will look exactly like a native, mobile application for that city, but you will have accessed it through PhunWallet. That, I think, is a very powerful idea. And so we've been talking about that with cities in particular, because that is a big investment. How do you create a platform for everybody? The real question now is, do we want it to be by city, or do we want to just have it all under the PhunWallet umbrella? And I'm kind of leaning towards the latter. Good question.
Thank you. And there's, in the city I live in, the utilities are all coordinated by the city. Even though it's almost like they white labeled ComEd, and we pay all the bills and everything to the city. I was just imagining, again, token and coins and everything being used by the city eventually to reward their constituents.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And that's what we want to remember. So, to kind of tie it all together so people really understand, if I'm, we'll use a more of a commercial example, but if I'm a car company, if I'm BMW, and I have, a $100,000 budget, to try to find people to buy a BMW, it's hard for me to realize where to spend that money. I don't want to spend it on people who aren't in the market to buy, a car, much less a BMW. Maybe, they're in the market to buy a car, but that's outside of their budget, or maybe it's under their budget for, these crypto ballers that are out there looking for Lambos. Who knows? And so, what ends up happening in our ecosystem is, I'll give you PhunToken to tell me if you're interested or not. Are you interested in buying a BMW? Yes or no? No matter what you say, that answer is valuable to me. No? Great. I won't bother you. Yes? Awesome. I'm going to make sure that I promote my new model BMW, 6 Series to you, whatever. Well, then let's say, you answer the question, you get some PhunToken for answering the question, and I don't know, 3 weeks later, you're playing, Words with Friends on your phone, and the game ends and you see an ad for a BMW. Well, that ad only showed up because you answered that survey. Phunware sold your data in order to display that ad. Now you get paid in PhunCoin. So you got PhunToken for telling me if I should advertise to you. You get PhunCoin for basically allowing me to sell your data. And it creates this virtuous, ecosystem. And so again, as we think about back to the city example, it's all about influencing behavior, delighting customers, but doing it in a transparent way where customers are always in control. And so for cities, you're exactly right. Report a pothole, earn some PhunToken. Report a crime, earn some PhunToken. Share, really cool events, anything you want your citizens to do. Vote early, share this, video, from the city council, on Instagram. There's a million different things that people always want people to do. And we can absolutely use blockchain to not only incentivize them to do those things, but we can also use blockchain to authenticate who's doing it.
Isn't it
That's
possible
awesome.
to have like a reward system? I mean, in a city, if you see like a hero award in
Absolutely.
so if some
Absolutely.
person helps people from drowning or whatever, stops
You
a
do, but
shooting.
you always, and again, it's I'm old. I'm a cynic. I've done everything. I've seen everything, and I've both legally at war and about a million other things. So the problem with that oftentimes is you don't want someone to throw someone in a river and then save them to get the reward. So you always got to be careful with reward programs.
Okay.
Because people will game the system. It's like, hey, I saved this guy from a mugging. Yeah, but you were the one mugging him. So it's you always want to be careful with unintended consequences with reward. But your point is still, I jest kind of. Your point is still well taken. Yes, you want to be able to reward good behavior, but also ensure that you're rewarding the right behavior.
Exactly. So the both words should be like in Florida. I mean, I think yeah, it's like getting a medal from the mayor or the governor or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're at about, and we'll do these again. I want to do these regularly, and so please be kind of pushing in questions. But I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Really appreciate everybody's patience. Spread the word. Tell people. Again, encourage people to come. There's a referral link inside of the Buy Portal. There's a referral link inside of PhunWallet. We are by choice growing the community very slowly, because what happens when you launch any new token, you are flooded by scam artists, bot attacks, fraudulent behavior, and we don't want that in kind of the prime time setting. So we're, every time we do something that becomes visible to the market, we see the reaction and we're like, okay, we can fix this. We can't do anything about that. Let's fix that. So it's all kind of on a small scale. And so, we haven't, quite frankly, begun our marketing campaign yet. All of this has been kind of grassroots, telling a few people about it. We haven't been spending a lot of money on it. But obviously, we have a lot of resources. We finished the year with over $50 million in the bank. We bought we got 650 Bitcoin, and growing. And so we are going to apply those resources to growing the awareness in the community, but we're going to do it in a responsible manner. So really excited to have y'all here. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the patience. It's not going to happen overnight. We're going to do this very methodically. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I'm gonna keep saying that. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And so we're in this for a long time. None of us are going anywhere. I've never sold a share of Phunware stock. I've never sold PhunToken. I've never sold PhunCoin. And we've been involved in this, for over 13 years. So, we're not a rug pull. We're not a scam. We're not going anywhere. We're not only accountable to you, the community. We're not only accountable to you, the PhunToken holders. We're accountable to the SEC. We're accountable to the law. And so, we are not like anyone else you are currently engaged with, because there is no one else like us. Full stop. But stay patient, stay engaged, and we'll get there. It's going to be an exciting journey. So I appreciate it. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you, Randall. You too.